In Newburgh, it had stopped raining. I walked down to the river, and among all things, I had to ride back to New York in a bus with a delegation of school teachers coming back from a weekend in the mountains. Chatter, chatter, blah, blah, and me swearing for all the time and the money I'd wasted and telling myself I wanted to go west. And here I've been all day and into the night, going up and down and north and south, something like something that can't get started. And I swore I'd be in Chicago tomorrow and made sure of that, taking a bus to Chicago, spending most of my money and didn't give a damn, just as long as I'd be in that damn Chicago tomorrow. The bus left at 2 o'clock in the morning from the 34th Street bus station, 16 hours after I'd more or less passed it up on my way to Route 6. Sheepishly, my foolish ass was carried west, but at least I was headed there at last. I won't describe the trip to Chicago. It was an ordinary bus trip with crying babies and sometimes hot sun and country folk getting on at one pen on town or the one pen town after another and so on until we got on the plain of Ohio and really rolled up by Ashtabula, straight across Indiana in the night for Chicago. I arrived in Chicago quite early in the morning, got a room in the Y, and went to bed with a very few dollars in my pocket as a consequence of my foolishness. I dug Chicago after a good day's sleep, the wind from Lake Michigan, the beans, bop at the loop, long walks around Halsted and North Clark, and one long walk after midnight into the jungles where a cruising car followed me as a suspicious character. At this time, 1947, bop was going like mad all over America, but it hadn't developed to what it is now. The fellows at the Loop blew, but with a tired air, because bop was somewhere between its Charlie Parker ornithology period and another period that really began with Miles Davis. And as I sat there listening to that sound of the night, which it has come to represent for all of us, I thought of all my friends from one end of the country to the other, and how they were really in the same vast backyard doing something so frantic and rushing about beneath. And for the first time in my life, the following afternoon, I went into the West. It was a warm and beautiful day for hitchhiking. To get out of the impossible complexities of Chicago traffic, I took a bus to Joliet, Illinois, went by the Joliet Pen, and stationed myself just outside of town. After a walk through its leafy, rickety streets behind, pointed my way, all the way from New York to Joliet by bus in actuality, and I had about $20 left. My first ride was a dynamite truck with a red flag about 30 miles into the great green Illinois, the truck driver pointing out the place where Route 6 that we were on intersected with Route 66 before they both shot west for incredible distances. Along about 3 in the afternoon, after an apple pie and an ice cream from a roadside stand, a woman had stopped for me in the little coupe. I had a twinge of a heart-on joy as I ran after the car. But she was a middle-aged woman, actually the mother of sons my age, and wanted somebody to help her drive to Iowa. I was all for it. Iowa. Not so far from Denver. And once I got to Denver, I could relax. She drove the first few hours and at one point insisted on visiting an old church somewhere, like as if we were tourists. And then I took over the wheel, and though I'm not much of a driver, drove clear through the rest of Illinois to Davenport, Iowa via Rock Island, and here for the first time in my life, I saw my beloved Mississippi River. Dry in the summer haze, low water, with its big rank smell that smells like the raw body of America itself because it washes it up. Rock Island, railroad tracks, shacks, small downtown section, and over the bridge to Davenport. Same kind of town, all smelling of sawdust in the warm Midwest sun. Here the lady had to go on to her Iowa hometown by another route, and I got out. The sun was going down. I walked after a few cold beers to the edge of the town, and it was a long walk. All the men were driving home from work wearing railroad hats, baseball hats, all kind of hats, just like after work in any town, anywhere. One of them gave me a ride up the hill and left me at a lonely crossroads on the edge of a prairie. It was beautiful there. Across the street was a motel, the first of many hotels I was to see in the West. The only cars that came by were farmer cars. They gave me suspicious looks, but they clanked along. The cows were coming home, not for a truck. A few cars zipped by. A hot rod kid came by with his scarf flying. The sun went all the way down, and I was standing in the purple darkness. Now I was scared. There weren't even any lights in the Iowa countryside. In a minute, nobody would be able to see me. Luckily, a man going back to Davenport gave me a lift downtown, but I was right where I started from. I went to sit in the bus station and think this over. I ate another apple pie and ice cream. That's practically all I ate all the way across the country. I knew it was nutritious, and of course it was delicious. I decided to gamble. I took a bus in downtown Davenport after spending a half hour watching a waitress in the bus station cafe and rode to the city limits. But this time, near the gas stations. Here the big trucks roared, wham, and inside 2 minutes, one of them cranked right to a stop for me. I ran for it with my soul, whooping. And what a driver. A great big tough truck driver with a popping eyes and a hoarse raspy voice who just slammed and kicked at everything and got his rig underway and paid hardly any attention to me so I could rest my tired soul a little. For one of the biggest troubles, hitchhiking, is having to talk to innumerable people, making them feel that they didn't make a mistake picking you up, even go as far as to entertain them almost, all of which is a great strain when you're going all the way and don't plan to sleep in hotels. The guy just yelled above the roar, and all I had to do was yell back, and we relaxed. And he bawled that thing clear to Rapid City, Iowa, and yelled me the funniest stories about how he got around the law in every town that had an unfair speed limit, reiterating over and over again, "Them goddamn cops can't put no flies on my ass." And he was wonderful, and he did a wonderful thing for me. Just as we rolled into Rapid City, he saw another truck coming behind us because he had to turn off at Rapid City. He blinked his taillights at the other guy and slowed down for me to jump out, which I did with my bag, and the other truck, acknowledging this exchange, stopped for me. Once again, in the twink of nothing, I was in another big high cab, all set to go hundreds of miles across the night, and I was happy. And the new truck driver was as crazy as the other one and yelled just as much as I. And all I had to do was lean back, relax, and my soul rolled on. Now I could see Denver looming ahead of me like the promised land, way out there beneath the stars, across the prairie of Iowa and the plains of Nebraska, and I could see the greater vision of San Francisco beyond, like jewels in the night. He bawled the jack and told stories for a couple of hours. Then at Stewart, a town in Iowa where years later Neil and I were stopped for suspicion in what looked like a stolen Cadillac, he slept a few hours in the seat. I slept too, and took one little walk along the lonely brick walls illuminated by one lamp, with the prairie brooding at the end of each little street and the smell of corn like dew in the night. He woke up with a start at dawn. Off we roared, and an hour later, the smoke of Des Moines appeared overhead, over the green cornfields. He had to eat his breakfast now and wanted to take it easy, so I went right on into Des Moines the rest of the way, about 4 miles, hitchhiking a ride from 2 boys from the University of Iowa. And it was strange sitting in their brand new comfortable car and hearing them talk of exams as we zoomed smoothly into town. Now, I wanted to sleep a whole day and go on until I reached Denver. So I went to the Y to get a room, but they didn't have any, and by instinct wandered down to the railroad tracks. There's a lot of them in Des Moines. And I wound up in the gloomy old Plains Inn of a hotel down by the Locomotive Roadhouse and spent a wonderful long day sleeping on a big, clean, hard white bed with dirty remarks carved into the wall beside my pillow, and the beet yellow window shades pulled over the smoky scene of the rail yards. I woke up as the sun was reddening, and that was the one distinct time in my life, the strangest moment of all, that I didn't know who I was. I was far away from home, haunted and tired with travel, in a cheap hotel room I'd never seen, hearing the hiss of steam outside and the creak of the old wood of the hotel and footsteps upstairs and all the sad sounds, and I looked at the cracked high ceiling and I really didn't know who I was for about 15 strange seconds. I wasn't scared. I was just somebody else, some stranger, and my whole life was a haunted life, the life of a ghost. I was halfway across America at the dividing line between the east of my youth and the west of my future. And maybe that's why it happened right there. Then that strange red afternoon. But I had to get going and stop moaning. So I picked up my bag, said so long to the old hotel keeper sitting by his spittoon, and went to eat. I ate apple pie and ice cream.